Hello, and welcome to Made in New England interview series, where we talk with New England-based companies and the people who lead them. I'm your host, Steve DeVries, and today I'm joined by Sylvain Roy, he's wearing two hats today. So he's owner and president of Dead Perfect Golf, as well as co-owner of Stumps, both located here in New Hampshire. Sylvain, welcome to the show.
Hey, great to be on the show with you, and I hope we can entertain some people today.
Absolutely. So thanks for joining us. Would you like to just kick us off a little bit with maybe a story about how you started Dead Perfect? And then I'd really love to get into talking about Stump Chunks as well.
Absolutely. So, Dead Perfect. I mean, I've been a salesperson my whole life, and a partner I once had in another company said I could make $1 million in the golf business. Still waiting on that, but I got in the golf business back in the mid '80s, and going through that, I realized that I was a sales rep for this company and that company, and I said, it'd be nice to be my own person and have our own products. We still represent companies, but Dead Perfect now sells golf equipment throughout the U.S., worldwide, military courses all around the country. We sell what's called the meat and potatoes of golf, things they really need. There's fads. I don't sell highly named brand stuff, but if you're using a pencil at a golf course, probably comes from me. Scorecard might come from me. The towel that's on your golf bag might come from me. Event business might come from me. The mat that you walk on that's logoed that says Sky Meadow Country Club might come from me. So we have sales reps throughout the country. We're in the world of business, we're a small company, and we're a sales company. We try to fill the needs of our customers. They tell us what they're looking for, and they want a logo on it, we do it. And whether that's a golf course or that's a company, construction company or whatever. That's when it comes down to logos, people want them perfect. It's how the name of the company is. If you want to do it right, just do it perfect. And that's how Dead Perfect came along.
I love that. And so many of our listeners and viewers, I'm sure, have seen a lot of the things that you've supplied at all of these golf courses. I know I have. And it's not something you stop and think about, but it definitely helps build the functionality and the atmosphere of those golf courses. So on behalf of all of us weekend warriors who like to play golf, thanks for helping make that experience better.
Yeah, don't blame me if they run out of pencils.
Well, so I'd also love to hear about Stump Chunks, which is such a unique business name. And I'll just share with everybody my first introduction to Stump Chunks. I was telling you about it when we first met, Sylvain. So years ago, I went to a big hardware store in Billerica, Massachusetts called O'Connor's Hardware. And I was walking through the parking lot. It was a cold, blustery day, and there was a tent top set up out in the parking lot. And there was a fire burning in one of those little, outdoor fireplace kettles. And I thought to myself, who the heck is crazy enough to be having a tailgate at, 'cause that's what it seemed like. Seemed like a tailgate at a hardware store. And lo and behold, it was a great big batch of these Stump Chunks product that your company makes, and it was burning. And turns out you and I probably had a conversation that day and didn't even realize it was so long ago, but it was a really cool product and I'd never forgotten it. And so here we are years later on this podcast. I just think it's so cool that you have that business, and I would love to share a little bit more about that. You own it with your brothers, which I think is really cool. And so maybe you could just tell us a little bit more about that business.
I can. I own the company with my three brothers. And I'm not a huge fan of partnerships. We'll start that way, whether it's family or not family. Someone always thinks they work harder than the other one. It's just the way partnerships are. It's normally how they fall apart. Thanks to my parents, we have a very tight-knit family. All my brothers live locally. They own a company called MR Wood Recycling, and they've been in the wood recycling business that my father started back in 1970, excavation and wood recycling in the 80s. And then I have my company that I work with. we realized a long time ago that certain dried up stumps lit fires fantastically. It was like throwing fuel on a fire. All the rosin, everything that helps feed and heal the tree is in the stump. And, people come over and we'd give it away. We'd use it, whatever. And one of my brothers, Dan, said, hey, why don't we market that? Why don't we, sell it to stores? And of course, I've been in sales my whole life, and I've introduced products to the marketplace several times. And I told him he was nuts. The amount of hard work and the amount of time that it took to do that. It wasn't just throwing something in a bag, throwing it on the shelf and hope somebody buys it. There was a lot more to it. Well, they convinced me that we ought to try anyways. And I can't even tell you how many years ago that was, but 8, 9, 10 years ago anyways, we put the company together and started. They manufacture, and I head up the sales operation of the company. When we first started, we all sat down and we made a couple rules. One, whether or not we're successful makes no difference. We'll never see the great profits of this company. Our kids will. So let's have fun. Let's make sure we have fun doing this. If it's 5 years and we close the company, or it's 20 years and we close the company, let's make some memories and have some fun. If you go into business that way, and it isn't all about the dollar signs, you probably make correct decisions. If it's always about the dollar signs, you're always chasing, and you're always making bad business decisions. And the other thing was, we were not going to milk the other companies just to make this company run. Because then instead of having one business in trouble, you've got 3 businesses in trouble. So Stump Chunks has always had the philosophy that if we're going to advertise, it's coming out of our own budget. If we're going to do shows, it's coming out of our own budget. If we got to buy, we make the product, so we don't have to buy anything other than the bags that we put the product in. They're made in Maine. We try to keep everything we do start in New Hampshire. Can we deal with somebody in New Hampshire? Oh, can't. Okay. Can we deal with somebody in New England? Can we deal with somebody? And we go out that way so that we can help companies that are in the New England area, that are in our economy here in our area. And that's how the company started. And trust me, we did a lot of shows like O'Connor, sit there and light a fire. And, hardest thing is getting people to know about your product. And it's tougher today than it was 15 years ago.
Well, so your
But
grassroots campaign worked. At least it did with me, because as a guy walking through a parking lot who likes to have campfires, right? Whether it's at his campground or in my own backyard, seeing that product live and in action worked. So I think you're onto something with.
and that does 2 things. Number one, you let customers know about your product, and they let you know about what they're doing, their habits on lighting a fire. You get to learn about your customer, who's your customer base. Is it the people over 50? Is it the people 20 years old? You need to know that before you do anything, and before you do any kind of marketing, before you go anywhere. Who's my customer? There's no better way to know that than to actually go out there, meet customers and chat with them. And we did that quite a few years all over New England. And actually I went all over the United States doing those kind of things.
So your Stump Chunks business clearly has been successful, and obviously it hasn't taken away from the other entrepreneurial businesses in your family. When you think about the future of Stump Chunks, what do you think about? What gets you excited?
We've not even come close to tapping. There was a room of 100 people. And I said, any of you guys, and I've done this quite a few times, anybody ever hear of Stump Chunks? I might see 1 or 2 hands go up. And we're in New England, and I see 1 or 2 hands go up. Every year that increases a little bit. And first I'll always ask how many people light a fire. And then I'll ask how many people know about Stump Chunks. And it's a small percentage. So as I'm excited because we're starting it a little bit more with social media, and more people have heard about us. I got a phone call last week from one of the top 10 NASCAR drivers who uses our product, and of course wants me to put up my sticker on his car. He wasn't just calling to say hi. But he was calling because he uses the product, and he goes, "I'd love to just walk around the campgrounds at the races and talk about stump chunks. I think it'd be cool." Um,
I got to ask a
that's
question. So it's been on my mind since we had our first conversation. Where do you get the stumps that you use for the product?
Yeah. So we don't cut down any trees, right? However, if you're going to build the highway projects going on in New Hampshire, they're cutting trees. Stumps come to our facility in Derry. The guy chops down a lot because he's building a house or building whatever. Stumps have to go somewhere. You can't bury them anymore. So they come to our facility, and not every tree is good for stump chunks. So we have a secret recipe. I call it the Colonel's recipe. We call it Dan's recipe. My brother Dan has this recipe, and he'll go out there and he'll pick out the ones that are perfect for stump chunks. The stumps are put aside. The rest of the stump and wood products are mixed with bark mulch, and we make that company makes some really good bark mulch. And then the stumps are taken apart, they're cleaned, they're ground to or chipped to a specific size, cleaned again, dried, and then bagged. So it's a big process.
So for all the people listening and watching this, can you give us a little insight in terms of what your factory might look like, or what your facility looks like that does all this work? Are we talking a really big factory? Is it indoors? Is it outdoors? Is it lots of equipment?
It's
Is it
it's a combination, and stump chunks wouldn't be around if it wasn't for the parent company, MR Wood Recycling, that's been doing wood recycling since the 80s, right? They've been chipping stumps forever. Um, those machines are huge. I mean, we're not talking the guy that shows up and grinds your stump on your yard,
okay?
or the little tree grinders that we're talking. Yeah, God, 45-foot machines that are 15 feet tall, and drums that are 15 feet wide by 10 feet high that grind the product. And then they go through screens and they go up conveyor belts into another one. So the outside part of it is a huge operation. The inside part, the bagging, you might be surprised, but we they're not totally done by hand, but yeah, the bags are basically filled by hand. And it's all family working in this. I mean, my nephew is the number one bagger we got, and the product comes down a chute, comes into a bag, well, goes up to a zipper machine, sews the bag, goes in a box. Next one, if we have when we have big orders, and it's multiple people doing it. But we're bagging every day. Every day there's somebody in there bagging stump chunks.
What an amazing family business, right? New England based, right? Or New Hampshire based, really. So, what excites you when you think about the future of the business? What gets you most excited?
So it's really cool when you walk down an airport. I don't like to be famous. I don't want people coming up to me when I'm eating dinner and saying, "Hey, aren't you?" No. But it's really cool when somebody sees your t-shirt or your hat and they go, "Hey, I know that. I use that." I'd like that to happen more. I mean, the product is so easy to light. I had a customer here today, and he goes, "Hey, I use grabbing something else," and he goes, "Hey, I need some more stump chunks. It's all I use to light my wood stove. For 5 years, it's all I've been using." Those are fun things to hear. As a salesperson, yeah, we all sell stuff. Everybody sells something. It's just great to hear somebody say, "I really love your product. Thank you very much." That goes a long way. Put a smile on your face, and listen, you can make millions of dollars, or you can just make $2. But a smile is priceless. A happy face and feeling good that you actually did something good. I know it's kind of corny, but at the end of the day, that's what you think about.
Not corny at all, and I can attest to everybody out there, not getting paid for this at all. Stump Chunks is the real deal. It is a great product, and it stuck with me ever since that cold, windy day, way back in Massachusetts. So, um, let's flip it around a little bit, Sylvain. So, you talked about what excites you, and getting more notoriety, and getting people to smile and use that product more. If you had to think about the business from a future concerns standpoint, what concerns you about the business?
Capital is always the biggest issue that you don't have or have. Marketing. I was explaining to the guys at NASCAR, I said, marketing is like going gambling. If you walk into the casino, the way I do it is whether it's $500 or $1,000, I walk in knowing I've already lost the money. It's how long can I have fun with it? If you walk in thinking you're going to make money, you're setting yourself up for huge disappointment. Same thing for marketing, same thing for advertising. I wish we had a big marketing and advertising budget. We could let more people know about Stump Chunks. That's our biggest struggle, is how many people can we let know? You could put it in the store all day long. We've tried that, and we are in stores. But if customers don't know about it, it sits in the store. What's a store owner do when product ain't moving? They don't bring it in again. They unload it. So we've gone multiple routes. So the future for me is get more and more people to know about our product. Then they'll ask the local store owner, you ought to carry this. You ought to bring this in, and that'll get you into stores. Just placing product in the stores doesn't necessarily work, especially if they don't know what it is. So the exciting part for me is, we're doing a lot more social media marketing. We're getting a lot of good response. People are calling us, people are texting us, people are emailing us, whether they use it or don't use it. That's exciting to get more and more people to use it. And guess what? Sales have increased. We've doubled our sales over last year, from October on, because I think of the seasons, right? You got the winter season and the summer season. The winter, you're lighting wood stoves, fireplaces, you're still grilling, and maybe you got a campfire every now and then, especially if you're ice fishing. In the summer, you definitely got campfires. You're definitely grilling. So it's a year-round product, and our sales have doubled. So, and I've got distributors that are calling us saying, hey, my sales are up. Whatever you guys are doing, it's great. So those are good things to hear. We need that to increase. Be nice to have a household name.
Well, doubling your business is definitely exciting and worthy of congratulations. So I'll say congrats on that. So 2 last questions from me, Sylvain. So number 1, the show is all about businesses based here in New England, and clearly this is a New Hampshire family-owned business. Can you tell me about any pros or cons as it relates to being here in New Hampshire or New England in general?
Boy, it's tough to find a con, right? I mean, the people in New Hampshire are great. No sales tax. Let's keep that going. There's not a whole lot of cons being in New Hampshire. There's a con of being on the East Coast or the West Coast. The product we have doesn't weigh anything. So shipping is the biggest issue we have. You're shipping a bag that doesn't cost a lot. It costs more to ship than the bag costs to make. So most of our business is Mississippi East because it gets too expensive to ship to the West Coast. If there's a con, that's the only con there is, but I'd rather live here than Missouri or Kentucky or nothing wrong with those places. I've been there, but and at the end of the day, if you're going to own a business and you're going to sell retail product, the coasts are the places to be. Where are the most people? On the East Coast and the West Coast.
Absolutely.
You've got Boston, you've got New York, you've got Pittsburgh, you've got, Philadelphia, you've got Washington, D.C., all the way down the Carolinas, down to Florida. There's a lot of people and a lot of people lighting fires. And, when you think about it, you're a New Hampshire company doing a wood product. Now, here in New Hampshire, we know who we are. You go down somewhere else and you tell them you're from New England or you're from New Hampshire, they're thinking you're milking cows for a living. Or you're chopping wood. So it kind of fits perfectly that we're a New Hampshire company that's in the wood business.
Perfect. So last question then. So you've been in business for a long time. You've got some successful businesses. Your family's successful. Any advice that comes to mind that you can offer to budding business leaders, maybe people who are, thinking about starting a business with a family member or not, right? Just what comes to mind?
I guess quitting too early, knowing when to quit. You get too attached. If it's something personal to you, you get too attached, and sometimes it's time to quit and you can't because it's your baby. And I understand that. I truly understand that. Or quitting too early. And very similar to what everyone's doing now. They had a New Year's resolution they were going to exercise. They bought the new treadmill. It's about to become a coat hanger because they didn't see the results that they wanted to because they don't have the patience to see the results. If you do the right things and you continue to do the right things and you have your eye on the ball, and the eye on the ball isn't how much money's going in your pocket. It's how you're running your business and how you're treating your customers. And if you could continue to do the right thing, it will come. That's the best advice I can give is people quit too early or don't know when to, or don't know when it's time to quit because they just, either the product's not right for the time, it's not priced right, or they just don't have the capital to make it happen. And sometimes you just got to take your losses and your lump and you quit. But too many people quit too early, or think about the whole dollar volume, the whole big green dollar. And that's not what it's about. The green dollar comes if you make the right choices and you do the right things. I guess that's the best advice I can give.
Sylvain Roy, that is fantastic advice. Thank you so much for joining me today. It was great to meet you and learn more about your businesses, and we wish you well.
Thank you very much. It was nice to be on with you. Have a
All
great
right.
week.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks for listening and watching. We'll be back with another episode very soon. Take care.